One of the things I've always wanted to do was start my own comic series. Having all of my comics published within a week and make millions. When you think about it, it sounds pretty easy. Just think of a story and draw out panels, right? But you can't figure out how to start your story. Your art style isn't what you want it to be, or you can't seem to find a good font for your speech bubbles. Don't worry, I was in the same situation. Today I will be giving you a step-by-step process on how to make your own comic or manga, plus some tips to make it easier. Unfortunately, my comic is not published yet. And at the end, I will apply these steps to one of my comic pages. Let's get into the intro. Alright, first things first, you're going to need an idea. And if you haven't written down any ideas yet, please do. It doesn't have to be 100 pages. Writing is the main and first thing you should do. This is your foundation. This will be helpful later on. One thing you can think about is plot as a whole. For example, a plot diagram which entails exposition, intro to the story, provides background on character, setting, and history. Conflict, the main issue within the entire story. Rising action, series of events that builds the story suspense. Climax, the peak of the tension. Falling action, a period where tension lessens and things are starting to be resolved while the main character adjusts to their new reality. And resolution, the conclusion. These are the main things you need to keep in mind when writing your comic or manga. This is something I used to struggle with during COVID, since I just wanted to start drawing immediately on my iPad. So this caused me to rush the story and not really think about the background information, the plot, or about the world itself, and I also began to rush into characters I barely knew about, thinking I knew what I was doing, which is something you should
never, ever
do, especially if you are thinking about publishing your comic or manga, but we'll get to that soon. But if you are just starting out, start with some vague ideas that come to mind, like the theme, time, setting, etc. That's something I didn't do and I regret it. Writing out an outline can be helpful when thinking about how you want your story to go. Having an outline helps provide structure and ensure smooth transitions and will lessen your stress. Mood boards are also very helpful when it comes to visualizing your ideas. Here's mine. These are only examples to help you. You can use my mood board if this fits your category. You can use Canva, Procreate, Ibis Paint, Pinterest, and any other app that allows you to have images in one place to ensure tidiness. Another thing to keep in mind is to make sure you know where you're going with your story. And yes, I know you want to get to the very cool action scenes, so did I. But not finalizing that and just drawing scenes that haven't even been written out in your idea can be very frustrating. Especially because if you draw that action scene very early on and you're only on the second chapter of your comic or manga, and this action scene takes place in chapter 6, when you actually get to that part, you might have a completely different outcome compared to what you thought in your head. And then you're lost for the next 4 months wondering if you should change the entire plot. This can lead to confusion on which outcome you want your story to go to. One more thing is to figure out who is the antagonist and the protagonist within your story. Having this in mind makes writing your script a lot easier later on. Now that you have your idea, it's time for characters. I recommend looking up references for things like character sheets, character turnarounds. This will help you further understand how to draw your character from different angles. Something that I also never did when starting out. But let's backtrack a bit. You can start with small sketches, or you can look up references if nothing comes to mind. But
never, ever, under any circumstance,
copy or take anyone's character design, especially from already published and well-known works such as from my manga people, MHA, JJK, Bleach, Demon Slayer, etc. For my comic people, Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Flash, Captain America, etc. If you struggle with proper anatomy, I recommend watching PyCat. They are very good at what they do and they give very in-depth tutorials. Why Manga? He is a published author and gives tutorials on proportions and can also help with perspective, shows his process on how he does his own panels, and has plenty more content and has personally helped me when I was starting out. If you just want some inspiration, I recommend watching Draw with Fufu's video about reading her old comic. Trust me, I've watched it a lot. Back to character sheets. If you want to watch someone do theirs, I recommend Lavender Town. Character sheets in general helps you visualize the character and can be very useful while drawing your panels later on. And always make sure that it is full body and not cut off at any joint like the knees or elbows. This is because you want to know what they look like from head to toe unless they are missing a body part. In one of Lavender Town's videos on character sheets, she made hers into a turnaround animation with her character sheet just to make sure all of the proportions were in the right place, but that's not required. Here's my example of a character sheet. You can also write little notes on your character sheet like their name, age, gender, distinctive features or any other info that you have about your character that needs to be written down. A script is used to help break down the story into detail when it comes to who is speaking, what is happening, when it is happening, where it is happening, why it is happening and how it is happening, basically the 5 W's plus how. I know this is a bit boring, but it is very important to have that in mind. A script is also used to describe actions and specific dialogue for each panel. Here is a template of what I mean from my script. Show don't tell is another major thing when it comes to the script and the visual aspect of making comics or manga. Show don't tell entails revealing something major within a story by using the character's emotions or actions and not directly telling the reader. Thumbnails and storyboards can either be done traditionally or digitally. This part of the process involves drawing very loose sketches or thumbnails for each page within your comic or manga. Here are some of my examples. You don't have to add words in your storyboards, you can just add the bubbles like this. You also don't have to draw the characters in depth and can just do some blobs or stick figures. Okay, now that you have your basic knowledge on how to start your comic or manga, let's apply these steps into one page if you have one. If not, you can follow along either way. This is going to have to be a speed paint, but I'll slow it down and explain my process. Okay, so first I am going to add the speech bubbles. I mainly use a smaller size brush to create my bubble. Now I'm going to go and start sketching out my panel. If you are struggling with a pose, you can use references by looking on Pinterest. The key to setting up panels is not as hard as you think. If the scene is more action-packed, less text would be required so that the page would be more fast-paced, and having more sharp and smaller panels, this will increase tension. But for normal conversation, bigger panels or any type can be used. For traditional artists, for comics, Bristol paper or Bristol boards are very high durability and have great surface quality. For manga, it's the Deleter manga paper. You do not have to have the best quality paper, you can use any kind of paper and improve over time, so please do not be discouraged if you cannot afford some of these items. Inking is pretty important when it comes to the neatness. Never do chicken scratch during the inking process. This can cause the artwork to look sloppy. I personally use Studio Pen with these custom settings. For my manga people, I also recommend Studio Pen or the Technical Pen. Comics, I recommend Studio Pen, Technical Pen, Syrup and Monoline. By the way, for both any pen can be used, this is just what I think is best. For people that are doing this traditionally, the recommended for manga inking are the G Pen, Maro Pen or fine liners like Sakura Pigma Micron and the Copic Multiliner. But if you are starting out, a ballpoint pen or microns are the way to go. And for comics, microns, Pentel Pocket Brush Pens and Zebra G-Nibs are the best. Now that my inking is done, it's time for color. You do not have to color in your comic or manga, but you can use cross-hatching, which looks like this. Or you can use halftones, which can be found here for Procreate. But if you are coloring, put everything on their own layer. For example, skin, hair, eyes, mouth should all be on their own layer like this. For traditional comics, you can use Copics, Ohuhu, which offers budget-friendly alternatives. You can also use Copics and Ohuhu for manga coloring or Spectrum nor Illustrator. I don't do this often, but I'm doing the glowing bits first before I start the shading. Shading can be done in many ways. You can do cel shading or soft shading. When shading, the two blend modes I recommend are the multiply blend mode or the new blend mode shade. A little tip here is to never shade with the color black, always use colors mainly based on the tone of the background. For traditional, use quick strokes while the ink is wet to ensure that the color will blend smoothly. Make sure to work quickly. This is only for people who want that smooth look. And finally, lighting and extra details. Please ensure that the lighting actually makes sense and isn't just added anywhere for the drawing to look pretty, but if it's not needed, do not add it for no reason. Now of course, if this is your first time doing this, and it seems difficult, don't worry, this does take time and I know that you all will improve and succeed. If you would like to know more about my comic and story, let me know. But if you made it this far, thanks, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to like and subscribe, and happy 2026.